Here I am sitting dinner, enjoying my evening after Nebraska basketball beat Ohio State, a team they weren't supposed to beat, by the way. You know, I don't talk about basketball much, but when nothing else is going your way, you got to find the silver lining. Nebraska basketball is a top 15 team in the country. They look like they're going to be, a top 5 seed in March Madness when it comes around. But the problem with that is I don't give a shit. I care about football, so we got to find something positive to talk about with the football team. Unfortunately, shit has been going downhill and has been going downhill fast. And I'm not here to rain on anybody's parade or be negative, but there's a reason I haven't been talking about the transfer portal. There's a reason I've taken a leave of absence and chosen to enjoy my life. Because if I sit here and dwell on the reality of being a Nebraska football fan, it leads to stress marks in your face. It leads to me gaining weight. It leads to frustration that is totally unnecessary. I told you after the USC game, I had my little crash after the USC game. I was so upset. I told you I'm just going to totally remove my emotions from Nebraska football. And I've done a fantastic job of it. I totally rerouted my energy, what my goals are. I've got my fitness going now. I just started back in the gym today. I'm tracking all my macros. I just have other things I'm appreciating. But then it comes to my attention that one positive that we could have from this transfer portal cycle in terms of Nebraska finding a player who can be not only a difference maker, but a true leader of the team. He just jumps last minute, jumps ship, and goes to Kentucky. And Will Compton says it really well right here. Kenny Minchey just fucked Nebraska. He committed, was supposed to visit tomorrow. Agent had the paperwork and said he was signing. Kentucky hit him with a blank check, lack of honor and spine, led him to switch before signing the contract. Agent complied. Now, I will say this. I don't have a problem with Kenny Minchey personally because the system is what's broken, right? The fact that Kentucky was able to come after he was already, quote unquote, locked in with Nebraska, and Kentucky's able to say, you know what? We couldn't get Sam Leavitt. By the way, we all know Kentucky's spending on a quarterback because Sam Leavitt was going to be a $5 to $7 million quarterback. So Kentucky says, we're desperate. There's no one out there that we like enough to build with Will Stein, the offensive coordinator from Oregon, who's now the Kentucky head coach. So we're going to go and overspend for a quarterback who hasn't done shit to hopefully bring us to what? Kentucky 8-9 wins next year? What are we talking about? This is so ridiculous. Anyway, the system is fucked up. But I don't care. I already knew the system was fucked up. It's a frustrating deal that this all happened. There's no personal grudge against Kenny Minchey. It's more so like, screw Kentucky. Like, really? They came in and stole Nebraska's quarterback after Nebraska showed interest. Nebraska courted him. Nebraska put the money in front of him, and they said, we're going to build around you. They come in last minute. Just scum. This is a Kentucky issue, in my opinion. Kenny Minchey had to do what he had to do. They gave him an absurd amount of money. He had to accept it. What are you going to do? Go to Nebraska where nothing's certain? What was he going to do? Come to Nebraska where they haven't been shit for years. Matt Rhule has proven absolutely nothing in terms of being able to win. The team around him is still being built up. They don't know what the offensive line is going to look like fully outside of, a couple returners, and then they went and got the Iowa State guard. They don't know what the defense is going to look like fully. You lost Keona Davis. You replaced him with Owen Chambliss from San Diego State. But there are just so many question marks. So I understand why you're not sold on Nebraska fully. And who would be? It's a mess. Wow, what a situation unfolding, right? This really tells you, though, if Matt Rhule can't get his guy, what is the future for him? Here's what it is telling me. Matt Rhule has 1 year left, in my opinion. This has been my kind of stance. He has 1 year left to prove himself. He went and tried to talk to Aiden Childs and see if he liked him. I think he talked to a couple other guys along the way. He wasn't sold on any. He went all in on Kenny Minchey and said, this is the guy who I'm going to put on the line and hope that he can turn this ship around so that I can stay the head coach at Nebraska. Because, again, if he doesn't get it worked out next year, I don't know how he's not on the hot seat, and I don't think there's going to be enough momentum for him to be able to recruit in the transfer portal. There's clearly not enough money at Nebraska to compete with some of the quote-unquote big boys like Kentucky. So, yeah, he's going to be in a tough spot. He's now going to have to go to a number 2 option. Aiden Childs is obviously on the board. Another runner would be like a DJ Lagway. Another one that I saw Nebraska had thought about earlier in the process was Anthony Calandria, who was from Virginia, and then UNLV. I actually think he's solid. The only question with Calandria is he's kind of small. Would he fit in the Big Ten? He's a dual threat, a true dual threat. So he looks good and he throws some really good balls. I actually might like him the best of the three, if I'm just being honest. But anyway, another one could be like a Hassan Longstreet, who's now going to enter the transfer portal from USC, it sounds like. Hassan Longstreet, in my opinion, is another Kenny Minchey. Hassan Longstreet was brought into USC to be the heir after Jaden Mayava went to the NFL, and then just so happens Jaden Mayava comes back, and now he's going to be forced out. Anyway, there are going to be options for Nebraska, but Matt Rhule's now going to say, hey, I'm in desperation mode. Which guy am I going to dive in with, and hopefully they can save my job? Because, yeah, it doesn't feel good right now being a Nebraska fan, and I can't imagine it feels good being Matt Rhule. Or maybe I'm reading this whole thing wrong, and maybe Matt Rhule's the one with all the power, Nebraska's the one with all the power, and that's not what's happening, unfortunately. This is a real tough spot. So I haven't even been appreciating or enjoying all of the transfer portal stuff going on in terms of what's happening in Nebraska, because I'm watching Texas Tech just completely pillage and dominate, go get whoever they want, whenever they want. It's like, damn, Texas Tech, obviously Indiana, #1 portal class, Indiana out of freaking nowhere. It's tough, man. In this new world of college football, keep in mind, without this new world of college football, Nebraska had no shot to compete. So they needed this world of college football to even get back in the game. But now you're seeing, wait. There are a bunch of other teams and schools like Nebraska who needed to get back in the game. And now they've got the same resources or better than Nebraska. And shit, Nebraska's in just as bad of a spot as they were before the transfer portal and before NIL. It's like, wow, what? This is a tough time, man. It's a tough era. I don't know what's going to happen with Nebraska's transfer portal targets, right? You need to find a quarterback ASAP, because they've got to get the quarterback to get other guys to buy in. If you don't have the quarterback, the leader of the team, quote unquote, how do other guys come to Nebraska willingly and say, this is a team I want to build with? You can't even get a fucking quarterback who wants to come. Who is it going to be? They got to do it fast. Urgency, I think, is the key word. I think in the next 2 days, they're going to find somebody. So one of those 4 names I mentioned, there's other guys right here. Let's just look real quick. I'm going to get to chat in a second. I know I want to respond to some of the things you guys were saying. Sam Levitt's available. He's going to go to a big school. Obviously not coming to Nebraska. Brendan Sorsby, you guys saw, sign with Texas Tech. They put a big advertisement on Times Square to say, welcome to Texas Tech, Brendan Sorsby. That shows you the brand that Texas Tech is building. They are trying to be, the main focal point of college football. We're not just Texas Tech. We are one of the premier programs in America. That's a statement. I love it. I respect it. I wish my favorite football team was doing that same type of thing. Okay, Messmaker's gone. Like I said, DJ Lagway, he's kind of a Nebraska type of dude. I just don't think DJ Lagway would come to Nebraska. I'm not sure if they'd be interested in him. It'd be weird for him to come from the South to Nebraska, in my opinion. I don't know if he'd have any ties or relationships, but I wouldn't hate it, honestly. You got to take a shot. DJ Lagway is where you swing big. It's a lot of upside potential. Can he fit in with Dana Holgerson? I would like that one. Deuce Knight, I saw that he's going to go to an SEC school. Deuce Knight's another one I like. Byron Brown's my favorite one, obviously, following his head coach to Auburn. Rocco Becht was one I liked, going to Penn State. Let's see. Ethan Grunkmeyer's going to Virginia Tech. Kenny Minchey, got to change that up. Aiden Childs is the next one after Kenny Minchey. Bo Prabula, they think, is going to go to Georgia Tech. Lincoln Kienholz, I know a lot of Nebraska fans are familiar with him, liked him. He's going to Louisville, which opens the door now for Dylan Rhule to go to Oregon, since he's not going to Louisville. Cutter Boley was another one that people talked about coming to Nebraska. To me, it wouldn't have made sense. Cutter Boley had a shit TD to interception ratio. He's going to Arizona State, where, in my opinion, he belongs. Caton Hauser from Michigan State, then to ECU, is going to Illinois. Colton Joseph, I know Nebraska fans liked him too. This one reminds me of an Anthony Colandrea, smaller, dual threat guy. Like, when you look at him play, he looks like, it says 200 pounds, probably like 190, Colandrea, same thing, 205, probably like 190. He's a smaller dude. Anyway, there's a lot of options, but they're gonna have to move quick. So, interesting time so far. Obviously, Nebraska's gotten now 2 commitments. Brendan Black from Iowa State. This is like getting Rocco Spindler last year from Notre Dame. This is a big one. Might actually be better. Rocco Spindler didn't have the same level of starting experience because he was just a plug-in guy at Notre Dame, earned the starting job because another guy got injured. Brendan Black was a 3-year starter at Iowa State. Great. And then obviously Owen Chambliss, All Mountain West, first team. He's a stud. So Man, I'm going to go to chat. I needed to come here to talk to you guys because when I saw all this drop, I was like, are you freaking kidding me? I had so much positivity with Nebraska winning in basketball. And then the one sport I actually like, you're going to throw a wrench in the whole deal. Dave, thanks for being here. Thanks for being a member. Thank you for the $5 super chat. My dad really appreciated and enjoyed talking to you at the Vegas Bowl. He said you're awesome and way smarter than he is, but he liked listening to what you had to say. He said there's no sugarcoating this one. Rhule needs to pull a rabbit out of his hat. Rhule needs to pull a rabbit out of his hat with the quarterback, but then he's got to figure out everything else because it feels slow. The urgency that I thought he was going to have, I don't know if it's a him issue. I don't know if it's a courting players issue. They need to go and get more linemen. They need to go and get a running back. I mean, it seems like things are moving fast around the country, and things aren't moving as quick as they got to move in Lincoln, Nebraska. I didn't expect it to be moving that quick. The people talk about, oh, Nebraska's got all this money, right? If Nebraska had all this money, they'd be making big boy plays, and they are not. That's just the unfortunate reality of the situation. Other schools are doing it. Why can't we? One part of it is Nebraska just landed a 5-star quarterback 2 cycles ago, right? You get this guy in, Dylan Rhule. You get this guy in, he doesn't make any improvement. He shows that he has potential, though. Like, Dylan's still an NFL quarterback. Dylan's still admired and respected by most of the college football world, despite what a lot of people on Twitter want to say, all the jokes and shit. That freaking dude is going to end up being the starting quarterback at Oregon or somewhere like that next year, and he's going to light it up, I'm sure. People look at his failure at Nebraska, not on him, but on Nebraska. So if that's the situation and there's this like bad taste in people's mouths about what Nebraska can get them to become, how are you going to go and get the best players? That could be what costs Rhule in the long term. By the way, I want Rhule to be successful. I'm a huge Matt Rhule fan. I'm not suggesting he should be or would be on the hot seat. I'm just saying the signs are pointing to. And I think we all can agree with that. If we're being logical and realistic, we can all agree with those sentiments. There's one more super chat I wanted to respond to. Mike, thank you for the $5 super chat. He says, Rhule is done. We can hardly get visits, let alone commitments. Time to look at Tony. And I don't know who that is. I'm going to be real with you. I'll have to look in a minute. I don't know that I would say Rhule is done. The transfer portal era is extremely tough, right? Or not the transfer era, the NIL era is extremely tough to compete in. The problem is Nebraska has to make big splash, right? They have to go out here and get guys who can start immediately and compete with teams like Oregon, Indiana, and Ohio State. So they're trying to chase the same guys who Indiana, Texas Tech, LSU, Florida, all the big boys are chasing. You're competing with the exact same amount of money, but different reputations, right? Nebraska has the brand. Nebraska doesn't have the wins. You're in year 3. Yeah, I get why you're saying Rhule's done. This was such an important season. To finish the way they did was so painful. And look, it's not all Rhule's fault. You lose your starting quarterback, you're cooked. TJ Lateef was never going to be ready, despite what everybody wanted to say about, oh, dual threat quarterback, true freshman Matt, whatever. That was such nonsense. We knew right after, Dana knew immediately after the USC game that the season was cooked because their new quarterback didn't have enough experience and wasn't ready to be a Big Ten starter. Okay. Not taking away anything in terms of how he played at UCLA or anything like that or his future opportunities, but Nebraska was done. I still think it's hard for people to wrap their head around the idea that Nebraska lost the way they did back to back to back. And their defense was so weak. The team didn't have heart. It didn't feel like they wanted to play together. The silver lining, I guess I can say, and what we've seen so far is they haven't lost as many starters as I thought they would. Ja'Cory Barney isn't gone. Isaiah Hunter is coming back, right? Luke Lindenmeyer is coming back. You have a few key weapons there. The running back room obviously is coming back. I don't know where they would go. The offensive line group coming back. The defense outside of Keona Davis, Malcolm Hartzog. They've got a lot of guys who are staying. And so there is still belief in that room. Also, how many of those guys would get better opportunities and more money than they get at Nebraska? I don't know that answer. But it's a tricky situation, Mike. I don't want to say Rhule's done yet. I'm gonna stick on the side of I still believe he can do it. He's just got a serious hill to climb. Like, you know those steps in Colorado Springs? What's that called? I'm blanking. But anyway, there's this the incline. The incline Colorado Springs. Yeah, he's climbing that right now. And it's steep. Mike, thank you again for the $5 super chat. He says, we have no D-line coach, same song and dance as last year. I'm not sure how soon it will take, or how long it'll take for them to get a D-line coach. I don't know what the situation is and why they're trying, or why they're waiting. But yeah, the D-line coach definitely isn't helping. The Squeaker says Gio Lopez could be an option. To be honest with you, I watched one Gio Lopez game this year. Okay, so for those who don't know who that is, Gio Lopez was the starting quarterback at South Alabama 2 seasons ago. Looked great. Transferred into UNC with Bill Belichick. I watched one game with him starting at quarterback against TCU to start the season, and he was atrocious. Turnover machine, absolute mess. I do not want Gio Lopez. If they signed him, I'll get on board and woo-woo, but I feel like that would be another Jeff Sims kind of bring in. So I'm going to say no on Gio Lopez. There are a lot of guys who are better than that. John Jacob says, is Rhule just an idiot? I don't think Rhule's an idiot at all. I think Rhule's downside is he's not a great X and O coach. I've mentioned this before. I think Rhule is great at building a program. And I think he's made a few hires that were tough. There were quote unquote mistakes, and he had to go back and fix that. And then it was hard to get guys to come play for Nebraska, like the right guys who he could come, or who he could build with right away. And he got a few key pieces, but they didn't work out. Like Dylan didn't fit. So because Dylan didn't fit, they weren't able to maximize the talent they were able to bring in. So if you can't, or Ja'Cory Barney last year, like they had Ja'Cory Barney, but he didn't do anything. So he's brought in some good guys. They've developed some players, but for whatever reason, the puzzle just didn't connect. That's been the issue. They have good pieces. I mean, you watched them this year at times. Guys were explosive. They'd hit hard. They'd make plays. Kenneth Williams, the returner, was good. They have some guys who are really strong. They just couldn't figure out how to get it to come together. And I'm not sure if that's play calling. I'm not sure if that's in-game management, probably partially. There are so many variables when it's all said and done, but yeah, Rhule's got some serious things to work out. We'll have to see. T. Frill says Rhule had us all buffaloed. He's lied to us about the money and the urgency. So I think he feels the urgency, but I think, and same with the money. I think Nebraska does have money, but I think they're on more of a budget than it sounded like, right? He said, yeah, we're committed. Yeah, we're doing X, Y, Z, but there are still limitations. Texas Tech just won in the portal. Like they went to the second round of the playoff. Well, that was for them, it was the first round, but whatever. Texas Tech was in the playoff playing last week. And why were they there? Because they unloaded. They emptied out every drop from their freaking pockets. They spent what they had to get there. Guess what? They made a lot of money because of it. More fan sale, or more ticket sales from fans, more merch sales, more fan engagement in general. You had more social media impressions. People actually are buying into this Texas Tech brand. Now, when you win, you make more money overall, right? Texas Tech said, okay, we need to go spend more. So now Texas Tech is spending whatever it takes because they said, well, if it worked the first time, let's reinvest our profits, right? So, yeah, I think Texas Tech was ahead of the curve. Nebraska's seeing it, but they're playing from behind. Indiana, again, ahead of the curve. Nebraska seeing it, playing from behind. It's a tough road. It's extremely competitive, right? You're in a very competitive space. It's a $1 billion sport. Man. Let's see. Also, one more thing on Kenny Minchey. Would it make sense to spend more on Kenny Minchey than Kentucky was willing to? Let's say hypothetically, I have no idea what the numbers are. Couldn't even tell you, couldn't even guess. Let's say Nebraska offered Kenny Minchey $2 million. To me, that seems ludicrous because he's done nothing yet. However, people are extremely high on him. I think when I looked here, he was a top one. Here, I'll show you guys as well. Kenny Minchey was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Like a top 12 quarterback in the portal. By the way, Jeff Sims was too, just a few years ago, which is prefacing what I'm about to say. Does it make sense to spend more than, let's say it was $2 million on Kenny Minchey to come to Nebraska? Probably not. He's unproven. We don't know if it's going to work out. He looks really good, and there's a lot of potential, and you kind of got to do it. But to spend more than that when you have other positions of need and you've got to spend money on offensive linemen, on defense, on a running back still, I mean, it probably doesn't make sense. Kentucky was already in position to outspend whoever it was. They were going after Sam Leavitt, the number one QB in the portal, at least in terms of how expensive they're going to be, him and Brendan Sorsby. So Kentucky probably paid him double, which in my opinion is just stupid. If Nebraska, if you would have seen it and we would have known, we would have never known. But let's say we found out Nebraska spent $4 million on Kenny Minchey. Would you have liked that, knowing that extra $2 million could have gone to 2 other players or 1 other big-time player, and they could have gone after Aiden Childs? Well, what's the drop-off from Kenny Minchey to Aiden Childs? Is it 1 game? Is it no games? Is it actually Aiden Childs plus 1? I don't know. So I'm happy they didn't overspend on Kenny Minchey. That's one thing I'll credit Rhule for. He didn't chase, and he didn't say, well, I'm already all in on this guy. I'll do whatever it takes to compete with Kentucky. Screw that. There's no way in hell this guy's worth that much without proving it first, right? So one credit to Rhule, one positive takeaway. He didn't overspend on a guy who wouldn't have made sense to overspend on. PA Husker says this is an incompetent coaching staff. I don't think it's an incompetent coaching staff. I think we're in a really competitive era of college football. Poet Doctor says, if Dylan was elite, he would have elevated our team in his second year despite the line weakness. Dylan wasn't elite. Dylan was good, and Dylan showed signs of having elite skill, but he wasn't consistent enough, and obviously the offense wasn't built for him. So I'm not saying he's elite, but he is really good. Crazy Entertainment. I think that Nebraska does have some nice things, and they can have nice things. I think that's ridiculous. They had Emmett Johnson. He was a nice thing. Isaiah Hunter, nice thing. Vincent Shavers, nice thing. There's tons, right? Some of these players are really freaking good. So, no, I wouldn't say that. Nebraska has shown they can be solid. But it's just a steep hill to climb. There are a lot of good teams out there. People calling him Gimmick Matt. Yeah, I mean, I get everybody's gripe with Matt Rhule and, like the podcast and his talking and not having the results to back it up, but it's a build for him. In his head, he's got to build. And I think we're now seeing this era of college football isn't about building. No longer are we just building. Now it's find ways to have instant results. I mean, he went out and got Arich, the DC from San Diego State. Right away, they bring over one of his best players on his defense, the leading tackler. That was a home run. So that was a good DC hire. It's hard to get your entire team to come with you to what do we call Nebraska? A mid-tier Power 4 program right now. Like some of those San Diego State players are getting offers from Texas Tech, from, Oregon, big time schools. Like USC, why would they come to Nebraska? They can go start at a bigger place where they can actually win right away and where they don't have to take the risk. Jim, thank you for the 1107. I appreciate you being here. If you send me a message, I'll respond to it. You blanked me on that one. I'd love to hear your opinions on what's going on. Michael Van Buren. Okay, so this one's interesting. Diplo says Michael Van Buren is an option. So I don't know if you guys remember him, but Michael Van Buren was the quarterback at Mississippi State. Now, this would be an addition. This would be like a competition piece. This wouldn't be a go all in on and make him your starter. Michael Van Buren was the quarterback at Mississippi State 2 seasons ago. He took over, I think, as the starter at some point. And then because he played so well, he transferred to LSU to be the backup, where he planned to develop behind Garrett Nussmeier, and ultimately took over as the starter when they benched Nussmeier because LSU's season was in the gutter. Van Buren entered the portal. He's a true dual threat, 6 foot, like 200. I would love to see him at Nebraska. He's not a great passer, though. That's the one downside with him. But if you brought him in addition to Aiden Childs, in addition to Anthony Colindre, someone like that, I would love Michael Van Buren. So yes, Diplo, I'm on the same page as you. Michael Van Buren would be freaking awesome. Mike, trying to open your $5 super chat. I can't. It says message retracted, but I appreciate you sending it. Thank you. Let's see. Gloom Trench, thank you for being a member. He says, it was reported that we were paying Minchey under $1 million. Is it really all that surprising that he's going to take a bag at Kentucky? And a backup QB isn't that big of a loss. People need to chill. I 100% agree with this. Minchey is totally unproven. If he was getting paid under $1 million, thank God Nebraska went out and found a quarterback who wasn't that expensive, who they still could trust to get the job done. But yeah, if the offer was double or whatever Nebraska thought wasn't worth it, I'm happy that they didn't chase him because I wasn't that excited about Minchey anyway. Was I pumped that Nebraska landed a quarterback who they believed in? Absolutely. Was I going to be supportive? Absolutely. But did I look at Kenny Minchey and watch his highlights at Notre Dame, his very, very limited highlights, and say, wow, I am in awe. This is the quarterback of the future, and this is the guy who's going to lead Nebraska to a Big Ten championship. What? Hell no. He has looked like another run-of-the-mill guy who was available in the portal that they went and grabbed. That's what it seemed to me. I didn't get excited, hence why I didn't come on here and talk about it, because it was just another And you know what? At this point, the way the portal's going, all these quarterbacks are looking like, However, you never know. One of these guys could come in, they get reignited. DJ Lagway, for example, they reignite and they end up being special in the Big Ten and special with Dana Holgorsen because they couldn't find the right chemistry with their last offense. So I'm not saying that has to last forever. I'm just right now, nobody's sticking out. Like nobody's a Sam Levitt or a Brennan Sorsby. You know what I mean? But the quarterback market's thin. That's the bottom line. Quarterback market's thin, and you got to find the right guy who fits. And those coaches know a lot better than me or any of you who the right guy for their offense is. I hope. Don't make me eat my words. David, thank you for the $5 super chat. He says, until we win, we will need to overpay a little for above average talent. Big talent will go to proven programs for even money. 1,000%. But at certain positions, I don't think you need to. Quarterback, for example, when I just showed you that list of QBs, if you put price tags on all these guys' names, like Kenny Minchey's $1 million, Aiden Childs is, I don't know, $1.2 million, but they're all tight. All of these guys can get the job done, in my opinion. So go and get one of these guys. But when you're talking about the difference between an Aiden Childs and being able to get somebody like, I don't know, who's on here that I really like. Let's just hypothetically, let's say it was Sam Levitt and they had to overpay for him. Sam Levitt would never come to Nebraska, but let's say they had to overpay for him, but you would actually see an increase in wins because you have a QB like that. I think it would make sense to overpay. Right now, losing Kenny Minchey to me, these other options are going to get the job done too. Kenny Minchey to me is like an Anthony Colandrea. It's like an Aiden Childs. They're all the same. It's whatever. Don't overpay for this guy when there's a bunch of other commodities out there who can do the exact same thing. However, overspend on a running back, overspend on a D lineman, overspend on an offensive lineman, overspend on a DB, whatever that is, because those guys can make big differences, and there's not as many of them. The quarterback market is freaking, at least for Nebraska with the dual threats who are average guys, it's on fire right now. There's like 4 guys who all fit the same mold, who are all the same profile. David, I just answered yours. Mike, thank you for the $5 super chat. Tody Anise is something like 363 and 66. I think he'd be okay. Yeah, but he's coming from Ferris State, right? Ferris State head coach. Yeah. I don't think that Nebraska hiring a Division II head coach after struggling with Matt Rhule would be the move. They would have to go, if we were talking about Nebraska hiring a new coach, we're not, but humoring Mike because Mike wants to talk about it. If Nebraska's going to go after a new coach, they've got to do something like Oklahoma State did. They went and got Eric Morris from North Texas. He brought in Drew Mestemaker, who's the best quarterback in the country. They brought in one of his top receivers. They brought in the number 1 running back from that conference. Okay, when they went and got 3 pieces who were already successful at that last school, that instantly will make Oklahoma State better. And hopefully they can parlay that into some success that now allows them to go and recruit the portal harder next year. Nebraska, if they were to move on from Matt Rhule, I would hope goes after a coach like that. And a D2 coach, as good as he is, it's probably too risky at this stage in the game. Now, you can argue, I'm sure people will, well, what about Curt Cignetti? Curt Cignetti came from James Madison. They were an 11-win team in the group of 4. They weren't Division II. You're not bringing over a bunch of players from a D2 school. You've got to go to a lower tier group of 5 or Power 4 school and steal that guy. That's what Nebraska's next move will be. Is my opinion, if they were to move on from Matt Rhule. Not saying that's happening. Ziggy, thank you for the $5 super chat. Nebraska has a history of stacking the decks against the coach when it's time to show up. The pockets are speaking. Has a history of stacking the deck against the coach when it's time to show up? Do they? I don't know. Explain what you mean, Ziggy. I don't know. Give me an example. Chris, thank you for the $5 super chat. I don't hate K-Knight. Who's K-Knight? Or Childs? I don't know what nickname K-Knight is. As a second option, I would have loved Minchey, but we have to move on. Who's K-Knight? I don't know. I don't know who you're talking about. Anyway, yeah, I'm kind of over Minchey already, just like you. Like, Minchey's gone. I already wasn't that excited. I mean, I was excited. I thought he could for sure do some things. He was a relatively dual threat. He's obviously played at a really big school, so he's been developed for multiple years. Like, that was cool. But he was still the backup to CJ Carr, who was a freshman. I just felt like, really, that's the best Nebraska can do. So, like you said, I'm already over it. I don't even care. Here comes Aiden Childs. Nebraska needs oil fields. Then we can go full Texas Tech. Problem solved. Or they need more cows. Or more corn. One of the two. More corn, more cows. What are Nebraska's other resources? Okay, I'm scrolling up. I'm getting to your super chats, guys. Okay. Jim, thank you for the 7-Eleven. He says, believe in Rhule, but time is short. Love Willie Fritz for future. A future possible, a winner. Willie Fritz from Houston. Willie Fritz is awesome. I remember I had Coach JB on my live stream like 2-3 years ago when I think Willie Fritz was at Tulane. And I asked JB who he thought Nebraska should get as a head coach, and he said Willie Fritz. That's the one. And he was right. Willie Fritz has been on fire. He's doing great at Houston. So Willie Fritz is an opportunity for Nebraska to go out and poach him, and then you could pull all those Houston guys. Again, I don't think Nebraska's getting rid of Rhule until at the earliest 2027. They're not getting rid of him this year. It'd be like halfway through 2027 would be the earliest. But I'm not trying to put that energy out here, guys. I'm not trying to be negative. We got to have positive thinking. We've got one more season with Rhule at the very least. So let's enjoy it, embrace it, hope for the freaking best. Somebody says, look at Steven Sipple's post. Let's see what Steven Sipple said. Sipple. Sipple says, the Kenny Minchey Nebraska era lasted about a day. Kentucky flipped the portal QB Monday night, forcing Nebraska to move fast. The Huskers are quickly pivoting to Aiden Childs, DJ Lagway, and Anthony Calandria. I mean, that wasn't a surprise because I had already known they were talking about Anthony Calandria and Aiden Childs. DJ Lagway is a surprise. I didn't know Nebraska was actually serious. I just said that because it's a dual threat quarterback who's still available. The other one, Hassan Longstreet. He's not in the portal yet, I don't think, but Hassan Longstreet's another one to add to that list. Interesting. Husker Online is saying DJ Lagway is a potential. Also, Jim, you said believe in Rhule, but time is short. Dude, we're getting old. I'm 32 now. How many more years do I have to sit until Nebraska can freaking win? I feel you. You're not the only one who's getting old over here, Jim. Life is short. Nebraska's not doing us any favors. Logan, thank you for the $2 super chat. Look at new Sipple tweet. I love the timing of that. Raishan, thank you for the $2 super chat. Aiden Childs, LOL. What are you saying? Aiden Childs, LOL, as in Aiden Childs a lock? Aiden Childs, LOL, as in you don't want Aiden Childs? Aiden Childs, LOL, as in he's a joke? What are we talking about? I think Aiden Childs would give me as much excitement as Kenny Minchey did. I would be optimistic that he would work in the system. I would be a little bit hesitant to buy all the way in because we haven't seen a quarterback like that since Jeff Sims. A quarterback like that being somebody who can run effectively. Jeff Sims couldn't do it. But somebody who can pass, right? And the last time they did it left a really bad taste in our mouth. So if you get another guy who's got a long stride and who's super athletic, you tighten up, you get a little tense. I want that type of quarterback. I'm just nervous. I think anytime we're going to get a quarterback who's got that play style, I'm going to be hesitant. It's nothing personal to Aiden Childs. Honestly, it's nothing personal. I actually really liked Aiden Childs. If you go back and watch my video from like 2 years ago when Aiden Childs transferred to Michigan State, I was really high on him. I thought he was going to be better in Dylan Raiola's freshman season than Dylan would be. He obviously ended up being kind of average that year, but I was very high on him. So I would like Aiden Childs. I'm hesitant to jump in. That's all it is. I'm hesitant. Let's see. Mike, thank you for the $5 super chat. Don't desperate teams set the market according to our staff? I would consider our team desperate. Kentucky's a desperate team. They set the market. But the problem is I think Kentucky's a little too desperate because they're going to overpay for guys who they shouldn't be overpaying for. And they're taking a little bit more of a risk. They're gambling. So I don't know if Nebraska can afford to gamble. Think about it. Nebraska's already taken their shots. They took a shot on Jeff Sims. They took a shot. This wasn't even a gamble, but they did take a shot on Dylan Riola and they lost. So they need something secure and something safe. They need as close to a guaranteed commodity that you can get. And that doesn't really exist. Brennan Sorsby's a guarantee. That's why Texas Tech paid what they paid him. Sam Levitt's a guarantee in theory. So one of these schools is going to go out and they're going to get him and they know what they're going to get in him. But a lot of these other quarterbacks, you're kind of like, Ethan Grunkmeyer, I would argue that he's a guarantee. Josh Hoover's a guarantee. Rocco Beck's a guarantee. Byron Brown. There's a few at the top. But we're not talking about Nebraska being in the top because big-time quarterbacks don't want to come play at Nebraska unless they pay them too much money. And Nebraska's not in the market to pay too much money when they have other needs they got to pay for. Remember, Nebraska, as much money as they've got to spend, they don't have as much as Texas Tech. They don't have as much as Indiana, clearly. Because if they did, they would overspend and they'd go and pull some of these guys. But they still got money. They got to figure it out. Evan, thank you for being a member. Thank you for the $10 super chat. I think the QB market is becoming oversaturated and we will end up landing one by the end. And we need someone more proven anyway, GBR. Yeah, there are a lot of guys who are entering day by day. Like I said, I've mentioned him multiple times because I really want to manifest this name. Hassan Longstreet, USC. There are a lot of guys who are entering. I mean, Deuce Knight just popped in like 3 days ago. It feels like there's a new big name popping every day. So the more that come in, and they're all kind of at the same level. They're all at the level of they're good enough to be a starter somewhere, but we don't know how good of a starter they're going to be. Like we know that they competed to be the starter at their Power 4 school in the SEC, the Big 10, the Big 12, but they didn't do enough to win the job. However, a lot of these guys were younger, so more time in the system. Who knows where they would have ended up. In the new era of college football, they just want to get out and start somewhere else right away. So teams are willing to take a risk on them. Austin Simons, for example, the Ole Miss. I'm just looking at names right here. Again, thank you for the super chat, Evan. Austin Simons is here. He was the starting quarterback at Ole Miss to start the year. He's a baseball player. He's athletic. Missouri, they lost Bo Perbula. Missouri is going to get him. And I think they locked him in last week. That's why Missouri's been the team they've been talking about for the last 4 days. But Simons isn't even that proven. Like he was good, but we never really saw him play against great competition at Ole Miss. He started the first 4 games this year and then got hurt and then lost the job to Chambliss. Last year, he started against Georgia after Jackson Dart got hurt. I think he actually beat Georgia that day. So he has beaten some good teams, but you understand my point in saying all this. There are a lot of quarterbacks out there and there are a lot of unproven ones as well. So you don't know what you're going to get. You're taking a lot of risk. Chi-Town Husker says, Aiden Childs finds ways to lose. To be fair, Aiden Childs played with a coach who had no business coaching at Michigan State. I don't think he liked Michigan State. That matchup, for whatever reason, was odd. I thought it was going to be great. I don't know that I would discredit Aiden Childs because of his head coach's issues and Michigan State never being able to get it going. So I still have faith in Aiden Childs, and I'm going to continue to say that in case he's Nebraska's next quarterback, by the way. Right, Sean, thank you for the $5 super chat. What do you think about the Rhule backwards cap effect? Do you think that played a role in Minchey decommitting with the money from Kentucky? Rashawn, you're just trying to troll. Obviously, I don't give a shit about him wearing his hat backwards. I think he tried to lock in and it gave him a little bit of attitude and he felt good about the backward hat. So if he's got to do that to up his aura, I like it. Rhule's got to do what he's got to do. It's do or die time. I do not think the backwards hat had anything to do with Kenny Minchey decommitting. I could promise you that. JJ says Moore at Oregon is the first domino. If Oregon loses to Indiana, we're going to see the dominoes start to fall. This is a big week. I'm in Arizona, obviously. Again, I was in Vegas for the past 2 weeks, 10 days, whatever it was. I'm going to Fiesta Bowl on Thursday. I'm very, very excited. You guys know I love Ole Miss. And now with Lane gone, I feel like I've got to be there to cheer for them, to give them an extra boost because, they don't have their head coach. So I'm a very big Ole Miss fan this year. I want to see them win. But yes, after this week, after the playoff, there's more quarterbacks. There's more players who are going to enter the portal. There's more guys who are out there playing right now. And then we're going to start to see some other things take shape. What happens when Oregon loses Dante, if they do lose Dante, which I'm assuming they will since he's one of the two best quarterbacks in this upcoming draft? What quarterback do they pick up? What does their room look like? A lot of dominoes still to come. Javelin Joe says Utah brought in an OC and a QB from New Mexico. They were 5-7. Utah went 11-2. That was a home run. Devin Dampier is electric. He's the perfect style quarterback for that offense. It doesn't come around very often. And right now there isn't a Devin Dampier in the top of the portal. Like, you don't see anybody. Let's see. If you had to find one, like AJ Hill is kind of like a Devin Dampier. He came from Memphis, now he's going to Arkansas. Marcus Stokes, I guess. He was like a 5-star quarterback who he rapped and said the N-word on TikTok or some shit. And so he lost his scholarship. Just, I don't, stupid shit. People are so sensitive about everything. So he had to go to D2. But he'll probably end up at a bigger school because he's actually really talented. Amari Odom. Okay, Amari Odom could be like a Devin Dampier. That would be one that's interesting for Nebraska. He was at Kennesaw State this year. It felt like he split time, but I think he was a starter half the year. That's one that I would look at and be like, okay, that's somebody you take a shot on. Maybe not go all in on and say, we're going to give you the reins, but who knows? Maybe with a better supporting cast than Kennesaw State had, he could be something. Who else? Nobody else really, in my opinion, on here would be like a Dampier. There's Michael Van Buren. I really want them to take Michael Van Buren. Just take him. Just take him and see what happens. He's fast. He's small. He already played in the SEC at 2 different schools. He's got experience as a starter. Okay, we're moving on from the portal, guys. Fat Sauce, thank you for the $5 super chat. Rhule says, desperate teams set the market. Okay, I did this one. Didn't I? Yes, I did. I gotta scroll. Okay, now we're set, I think. Got a lot of chats here. Okay. Ben, thank you for being a member. Thank you for the $5 super chat. At this point, the coaching staff needs to put their trust in... Brother, what? I think he has more potential than Rhule in the long run. Ben, no disrespect. If the coaches put their faith in a QB who has proven absolutely nothing, they're writing their own gravestone. Could you imagine the uproar from Nebraska fans if they said, you know what? We're just going to take a shot. We're going to risk it all on an off-season of development for a quarterback who you've watched start in 4 games. A quarterback who could not get it done. A quarterback who clearly was not ready. A quarterback who has potential, no doubt. A quarterback who tried to put the team on his back, no doubt. Love Latif, respect Latif. This is not a shot at Latif. But this is big-time college football. You cannot afford to put your trust in a guy who you gave a shot to. He had 4 games, and he did not do enough. I personally, Ben, would lose my shit. I would freak, what's the abbreviation? Freak TF out if they didn't go and get a quarterback and they just went, we're going to run with the guy that we've been using. Ben, I love that you have the faith in that guy. And I love that you want to give him a shot. But I would lose my mind if they did that. And they didn't go and get a big time quarterback. You've got to get a guy who's like somewhat proven. That's not, I'm not feeling it. Ben, you're alone on that one. I'm not here for it. Rod, thank you for being a member. Thank you for the $20 super chat. At this point, do we go mid on a QB Dana thinks will fit and blow the bank on the trenches? Postseason drama, baby. Look, Rod, this is what they did already. They went mid on a quarterback. They spent, in the chat, Gloom Trench, Tyler said that they spent $800K, let's say $900K, less than $1 million on Minchey. Let's just safely say it was $1 million. That's nothing on a quarterback. Obviously, their options are thin because who's going to come to Nebraska at this point? And when you go for the mid-tier guys, they're all going to cost around the same amount anyway. I think they're going to spend $1 million, $800,000, $1.3 million, who knows, somewhere in that ballpark, and they're going to use the rest of that budget on the trenches and on some skill players on defense. That's my guess. So I think we're already seeing that's their goal because they haven't called Sam Levitt and said, we're going to spend $5. They haven't done it. Any of these other quarterbacks who would cost an arm and a leg. I mean, Mestamaker would have, Josh Hoover would have, Deuce Knight, I'm not sure what he's going to cost. Byron Brown would have, Rocco Becht probably could have. I mean, no, Nebraska's playing it safe. Nebraska's saying we're spending $1 million-ish and we're going to spend around this guy. So I think that's the direction they want to go. And I support it. It sounds like you do too. Hopefully it works. Hopefully it works is all I can say. A lot of postseason drama. A lot of it. Marcus, thank you for the $5 super chat. Wouldn't it be funny? What are you about to say, brother? What funny thing are you about to say? This is not time to joke. If Rhule left and became the Raiders head coach, and that's the reason he stayed in Vegas was for an interview, put me in a home. Marcus, what the hell's wrong with you? That's not what's going on. There is no school. There is no pro team. There is nobody knocking on Matt Rhule's door right now. I could promise you that. Chi-Town Husker, thank you for the $5 super chat. He says, who is worse, Aiden Childs or Jeff Sims? Guys, Jeff Sims lives 20 doors down from me. I got to chill on yelling his name. Okay, Aiden Childs is much better than Jeff Sims right now, in my opinion. Jeff Sims did really well at Arizona State at the end. But from what we saw in the Big Ten, Jeff Sims couldn't compete. Jeff Sims was solid-ish at ASU. Great end of the season. Played his ass off against Duke. Oh, had a heartbreaking interception. Duke ended up winning that game, I think like 39-34, something like that. Jeff Sims was awesome in the ACC relative, awesome in the Big 12 relative. Aiden Childs has done it in the Big Ten and been relatively successful. So I'm going Aiden Childs here. No question. Not even, there's no way to debate it. Both are Scott Frost QBs, finds ways to lose. Again, Aiden Childs was in a dysfunctional system. Michigan State's head coach, Jonathan Smith, could not get that offense figured out. I think there were some issues at Michigan State that they didn't have when they were at Oregon State. And at Oregon State, Aiden Childs actually looked pretty damn good. So I'm going to say Aiden Childs could come to Nebraska and be successful. And if they were to get him, I'd be maybe more excited for him than I would have been for Kenny Minchey. Actually, yeah. I'd be more excited for Aiden Childs than I was for Kenny Minchey. 100%. Don't know if he's going to get him, but would be interesting. Poet Doctor says, I don't know anything about Anthony Calandria. I'll tell you this about Anthony Calandria. He played for Dan Mullen at UNLV. The year before he played for Tony Elliott at Virginia. I think he started at both schools. Anthony Calandria can run it. He runs it hard. He's a smaller guy, but he finds ways to make guys miss. He'll put his head down, kind of truck dudes. Smaller guy again, so I'm not sure how his game translates to the Big Ten, but he's got quickness and speed similar to an Aiden Childs, and he's got a really good arm. He throws the ball downfield. UNLV was one of the better teams in the Mountain West. Obviously, they won 10 games this year. They played, I think, Boise State in the Mountain West Championship game. Would have had to be Boise State, so it was them. Anyway, Calandria is a stud. Man, side by side, if I had to say Calandria or Aiden Childs, Calandria. I think there's more upside. You don't know how he's going to translate in the Big Ten, but he did play better in the games I watched than Aiden Childs did. That'd be an interesting one. I'm trying to think who he reminds me of. Mikey Keene from Fresno State, size-wise, smaller dude, but elusive. That might be a bad comparison. Mikey Keene, I don't know how fast he was. But anyway, interesting. Cobain says, we're a basketball and volleyball school. That's it. Hey, at least we got something positive. Trenton says, I forgot about Longstreet from USC. I like that pick. I'm telling you, that's a good one. Ashton Daniels is headed to FSU. Thank you, DJ, for this note. That's a big one. Ashton Daniels was the modern-day quarterback who went to Stanford, was a starter there, I think, left, went to Florida State. I think DJ Lagway was predicted to possibly go to Florida State, which means now the door could be open for DJ Lagway to Nebraska. Interesting. Who likes the idea of DJ Lagway at Nebraska? Little bit funky. He wasn't a quarterback they would have taken before. He was a quarterback who was recruited as highly in the exact same class as Dylan Raiola. Could be interesting. I like it personally. I think DJ Lagway taking a shot on a player with that type of upside, Cam Newton style player, Tim Tebow-esque, I think would be awesome to see. He has a big brand, right? People like him. I think him being at Nebraska could help them to get some more players. More skill players, since he was so well recruited out of high school. He's played with some of the best guys in the country growing up. DJ Lagway would be very intriguing. Just saying. Babs says, Nebraska's busting out the checkbook. I heard the trash guy that picks up the trash on Tuesdays getting signed. Yeah. They're doing whatever they got to do. They're going to take whoever they can take, even if it's the trash man, brother. I'm sure. Jason says, so we had then lost Minchey. Yeah. What happened with Minchey? Very simply, Minchey committed to Nebraska for, let's say, I don't know what the number is, let's say $1 million. Minchey then got an offer from Kentucky because Kentucky tried to go after Sam Levitt and pay him some stupid amount. Sam Levitt turned him down. And then obviously Kentucky needed a QB. They said, well, Nebraska evaluated Minchey. Notre Dame liked Minchey. We like Minchey. And since we've already had success stealing players from Nebraska, i.e. Wan'Dale Robinson, let's go give him the middle finger and steal this one next. Pay him double. How much do you want? Kenny Minchey said, really? I get to go play for Will Stein, coming off of a playoff run with Oregon. Fresh energy, not this, this clouded program that Nebraska is currently. I get to go somewhere fresh, and I get to help recruit some new guys from the portal with you. Give me Kentucky and give me the more money. That's what Minchey said. Not a quote, but probably what he thought. So that's how it happened. That's what went down. Again, I don't blame anybody. If I'm in Kenny Minchey's position, I've got zero loyalty to Nebraska, and another school's going to give me double the money, hell yeah, I'm going. Especially if I'm going to a school with new blood, new energy, as a head coach, or with a head coach in Will Stein. Home run for him. John says Minchey is definitely going to Kentucky, correct? Yeah, definitely. You don't have all these reports pop out the way they did if he wasn't definitely going. By the way, guys, I'm happy you're here. I love hanging out with you. I would have hated to just sit in my apartment tonight thinking to myself all these things without debriefing with a bunch of other Nebraska fans. So glad we could all talk about this together. There's some foul comments in here about TJ Lateef. Guys, don't be mean. Don't be freaking mean. TJ Lateef seems like a really good dude. Red Wine, UNLV QB, $500K per win, $1 million ranked team per win. You're saying give him that much? I don't think that Nebraska's got to pay that much for the UNLV QB. I think at most Anthony Calandria is like $1.5 million. Todd says, what about Zane Flores from Oklahoma State? Played high school ball in Nebraska for Gretna. Yeah, that's a backup option. That's a guy who could come to Nebraska but not be an immediate starter. Hasn't really proved anything. I think he had kind of a weak touchdown interception ratio. Nebraska's got to go bigger than that. Zane Flores is a TJ Lateef, in my opinion. Love TJ. I'm sure Zane would be great, but they need to swing a little bit higher right now, a little bit more proven, more developed, and ready to win in the Big Ten. Dark Bardox. I wish Nebraska fans would figure out we are only a brand name to old people, not to anyone who plays football. We are nothing to these kids. I think people understand that, and I think people all would agree with you in that statement. Unfortunately, Nebraska's prestige has worn off to the youth. I think about this. This is actually crazy. I was born in 1993. So when I was growing up, Nebraska still carried weight. That was like, 2001. I was 8 years old. They were playing for a national championship. Even when I was in high school, high school was 2007 to 11. That was Bill Callahan to, I think Joe Daly was the quarterback, right? Joe Daly was the quarterback. I was like an 8th grade freshman year. Joe Gans, I don't know, can't remember, whatever it was. Bo Pelini came in. Nebraska was still a 9-10 win team. But if you're committing to Nebraska now and you're 18 years old, that means you were born in what, 2003? No, 2006? Fuck. 2007? 2007. Jesus. 2007 to 2015, Nebraska was decent. But as soon as you hit 10 years old, that's when the Mike Riley era started. So from the time you were 10 until the time you were committing today, you watched Mike Riley, Scott Frost, and now Matt Rhule. Nebraska is ugly to high school kids today. Nebraska's brand is disgust to high school kids today. It is tough. Tough being a Nebraska fan. They desperately need to pick shit up. Ali says, if we're not spending $5 million on a quarterback, we're not a serious program. Here's the problem. It doesn't make sense. Because let's just talk about the wins. Sam Leavitt's $5 million. Let's say he comes to Nebraska for $5 million. How many more wins is Sam Leavitt worth than DJ Lagway, Deuce Knight, Aiden Childs? 1? 2? Sam Leavitt was good 2 years ago at Arizona State. He was okay this year at Arizona State. He has an injury history. You're going to bank all your money on a guy who was decent and couldn't get over injuries at ASU this year? That makes absolutely no sense. That $5 million could be spread out among 4 other players. No. Nebraska cannot afford to go and spend $5 million on a guy like Sam Leavitt when you could probably get Aiden Childs to get you to 8 wins and maybe Sam gets you to 9. No. That's why Nebraska can't overspend. Nebraska cannot overspend because the value isn't there. It'd be like, let's think of a comparison. I mean, there's a billion, but from a consumer perspective, if you bought a Nike hoodie from a Walmart hoodie and the Walmart hoodie was $10, but the Nike hoodie was $200, right? Well, if you just need the hoodie for a quick thing for one season, do you want to spend the $200 and then never wear it again? Probably not. So you're going to say, well, value-wise for 1 year, I'm going to go and just spend $10. It'll get me through the year. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. It's a shitty comparison, but it makes the point. I'm just reading chat. I don't want TJ to be our guy. I don't think he has the arm. Agreed. He doesn't have the arm right now. Could potentially, but not right now. Jose says, I'm excited for DJ Lagway. That's the first I've heard about us showing him interest. I didn't think we were that serious. I don't know how many schools want DJ Lagway, So if a lot of schools want him, I think it's harder. But right now, it hasn't seemed like he's gotten that much interest to the point where Nebraska couldn't take a shot and get him at least to visit, Great show. Lots of good points. Thank you, Benjamin. I appreciate you. Appreciate you being here. I love hanging out with you guys, as you know. Stu, thank you for the $10 super chat. Welcome to the new world of Moneyball. There's a cap czar, sets the limits based on black box logic. Wilson D is losing his shit right now, but would be the first to criticize Nebraska for overpaying. Don't know what Wilson D is saying. What else? The Moneyball thing. Yeah, I mean, this is the world. It's figure out how to adjust a salary cap that doesn't exist every season and make the most of the money you can spend. And nobody knows, by the way, what anyone has to spend. And it's just watch it all unfold as a fan and a spectator and try to understand it, as best you can. At least in Moneyball, guys in baseball, guys can see what the salaries are, and then you can see who's spending what. Like when the Yankees spend 5 times everybody else or whatever they spend times everybody else, that your administration, your program won't get with it. In college football, you don't know. We don't know how much Nebraska has to spend. We don't know how much Texas Tech has to spend. We just know they spend freaking crazy, and Nebraska's playing catch up. So interesting. But yeah, I do know a lot of other people will criticize Nebraska, and I don't watch other Nebraska shows, so I don't know. I just give you guys my takes and try to be as logical as possible when other people are emotional. Because I tapped out emotionally, as you know. I pulled back on the emotions and I said, screw it. I'm not going to let this team ruin my fucking life anymore. Corey, thank you for the $5 super chat. Do you think Nebraska is a cold product and just can't get the players we need to rebound? We keep losing out on players, frustrated. Nebraska is a shit product, man. Nebraska right now, you guys know I don't eat fast food. Nebraska right now is like Wendy's. If you look at like the fast food lineup, there are Wendy's. They're shit. Nobody wants to go there. Do people eat Wendy's? Maybe I'm wrong in this since I don't eat fast food. Like, I'm not the guy. But Chick-fil-A is Texas Tech. Is Chick-fil-A the premier program or the premier chicken place? Whatever. You get my point. Nebraska's Wendy's. Chick-fil-A is like Texas Tech and LSU, and then you have like Raising Cane's. I don't know where Raising Cane's ranks, but you get my point. Yeah, Nebraska's a shit product right now, and nobody wants to come. Because why would you? You've got a coach who people are talking about could potentially be on the hot seat. You've got your best player leaving after he wasn't able to get developed right, and people are saying, well, if he couldn't get developed, how am I going to get developed? Dylan's got like a great arm. People know it. Other players have seen it. There might be some issues with his game, but people don't want to come somewhere that's been this cold and this dreary and ugly and people are down and out. I mean, yes, cold product to say the least, brother. I'm frustrated too. I'm on the same page as you. And I can promise you, every one of these 689 people watching in chat right now, they feel the exact same way. Max frustration. That's why we're up at, what is it, 9:22 in Nebraska right now. That's why we're up this late on a Monday night complaining about Nebraska's transfer portal shit. This is crazy. DJ says, fuck it, throw $10 million at Sam Levitt. Yeah, again, for one win? I mean, how many more wins is he going to get you than Aiden Childs? Do not overspend. Don't be the program who looks back and says, geez, what were we thinking? Jackal says, Zane Flores is terrible. I've seen that guy play in person. Yeah, Zane Flores, I call him Flores. His name's Flores. So Zane Flores is a group of four quarterback or a backup power four quarterback. He's not a starter, and Nebraska's not going to ever take him. So anybody who's talking about that just probably wants him to come in and be a reserve guy, and they're not serious about him being the starting dude. Jeff says, is Deuce Knight an option? Doesn't seem like anyone's talking about him. I don't know who's going after him right now, but I did see that an SEC school is targeting him. So I would guess if an SEC school is targeting him, he's probably going to stay in the SEC. I would hope he's an option. He fits the Nebraska mold perfectly. Former 5-star. I would hope, but Nebraska's doing their due diligence. If they think a guy's possible to get there, they're talking to all these agents. They know who would come on a visit and who won't. So Deuce Knight is probably an option in Matt Rhule's eyes, but does Deuce Knight look at Nebraska as an option? I don't know. The fact that no one's talking about him probably means that he's not. That's my guess. Dirt Life says, who are Oregon and Miami taking? Those are the two big dominoes that haven't fallen yet, right? And there are two big quarterbacks in the portal right now who have both been linked. So Sam Levitt is going, in my opinion, is going to Miami or Oregon. It's one of the two. Dylan Raiola is going to Miami or Oregon. It's one of the two. I think I'm very certain in this, by the way. Like, I'm 90%. I would bet money on both of these things happening. I think Dylan could have gone to Louisville if he wanted to. And I think him sitting out and waiting was probably waiting for Oregon or Miami. And yeah, this week will tell us a lot. You know, once we know where those quarterbacks are going, both of these quarterbacks fit that style. Like Dylan Raiola fits at Miami. Sam Levitt fits at Oregon. It makes too much sense. It makes too much sense. We'll see. Who knows? But once those two dominoes fall, then we see the top QBs go off the board. Two of the top QBs go off the board. And we keep it pushing from there. GBR says, Matt Rhule told us all on December 19th that Pat Stewart had the transfer portal all taken care of. Look, he could have. He probably did have the transfer portal taken care of to some degree. But to what degree can you plan for what players are going to come to Nebraska and actually commit and sign with you? You can't. It's totally unpredictable. So Pat Stewart said, here's how we're going to execute. Here's how we're going to allocate the money. Here's what we're going to offer to these types of players. Here's the tier quarterback we want, the tier running back we want. Here are the top defensive guys. This is how we're going to play it out. And then hopefully we can land some of them. The problem is there is no perfect plan that's going to be executed the way you hope it is when you have other people making decisions on that side. They have to be the ones who come to you and accept the offer you give them, right? So Pat Stewart probably did a great job. They probably had the plan in place that we all hoped they would. But Nebraska's shit right now. So it's really hard to compete with the big boys when you're a small boy. John says, I'd go with Latif. What the hell? Again, I can't. Babs, thank you for the $10 super chat. All jokes aside, what could Nebraska spend in the portal? 8 million, 16 million, 20 million? I got no idea. This isn't like, there aren't numbers out there that we're seeing. We know what individual players are getting. We know, I don't know the numbers. I would say Nebraska had to pay Isaiah Hunter somewhere in the neighborhood of $700,000 to come back. I would say they had to pay a guy like Luke Lindenmeyer $500,000 to come back. I would say they've got to pay a quarterback $1 million if you're going down that Kenny Minchey road, or some of those other guys that we've talked about who were linked to Nebraska. So if you're paying guys, $500,000, $1 million for starting Power 4, potential honorable mention All Big Ten, $500,000 to $1 million a piece. Now, if you're going to go and get 6, 7 of those guys, that's like $7 million. And then you got a couple guys who cost more, right? Like, let's say they get the offensive lineman from Iowa State, for example. I bet he was $1 million easily. He's a three-year starter, and offensive and defensive linemen are some of the most expensive guys in the portal. Easily, that guy's $1 million. So that's my guess. I mean, if you got Nebraska wants to get 15 to 20 guys from the portal. I'm not a math guy. I failed math. I'm terrible at it. So I'm just trying to do numbers off my head. Let's say it's 10 million that they've got to spend, or 8 million, somewhere in that range is my guess, unless they were to go and throw in some crazy dude that they had to pay 2 or 3 million for. I just don't know that Nebraska can even pay to get a guy of that caliber. Like, who are you going to go and pay $3 million to? Like, for example, Cam Coleman from Auburn. Everybody in the country wants Cam Coleman, or he's a receiver from Auburn who's a 5-star. He's now going to go to USC or somewhere big like that with a big time developer. Texas A&M, I think, is where he's on visits to. My point is, Nebraska doesn't have the option to spend like that, because what guy of that caliber wants to come to a place like Nebraska that's in rebuild mode where a coach is desperate trying to save his job? He's going somewhere where he can start immediately. So, yeah, if all the players are going for cost between $250 and $1.5 million, 8, 10, I don't know, safe $8 million. I feel good about that. Jackal says, the fact that fans are already talking about replacing Rhule should be a very telling sound. We won't say it now, but he's not going to last here much longer. There are a lot of people who feel like he won't last if he can't win at least 8 games next year. And I am of that camp. I think if he doesn't win 8 games next year and finishes, let's say 7-5, it's really going to be hard for Nebraska fans to continue to buy into the rebuild Matt Rhule strategy. And if they can't buy into that, what are they going to do? They're going to say, we're going to ride with Rhule while he figures out the new game plan. I mean, in theory, he is now implementing the new game plan because he, just like us, watched how this season unfolded. He watched Texas Tech make it to the playoff. He watched Indiana rebuild in less time than he's been at Nebraska. I mean, he has seen what's going on around him, and that rebuild process that he has hoped and banked on for so long and talked to us about, it's not going to come to fruition, unfortunately. So how many years will we give him to try and figure it out until the pressure just gets to be too much? I don't know. I think it's next year and then the year after. And if there isn't significant improvement in the year 2027, how do you keep him? There are too many other options. This is a sport that's now got high turnover. You got to get the right guy in who can fix it. And if he's not the right guy, wish you well. 5 years, in my opinion, is the max that any coach is getting. You're not in the modern era of college football. How many guys are getting more than 5 years other than like a Kirk Ferentz, right? Like Kirk Ferentz, they've grandfathered him in. They said, we don't care. Win 7 games, win 8, we'll be happy. Once in a while, win 9 or 10, we're good. And they just let him stay forever, right? But most schools, they want to see you grow and they want to see you get better over time. And they'll get rid of you if you don't get better over time and you don't win championships eventually. You can't just sit at a school for 20 years and not win a championship. A lot of people want Deuce Knight. Everybody wants Deuce Knight, obviously. Mojo says, I beg anyone here to listen to the following. You want Calandria. Brother, I want Calandria. He says, Curt Cignetti follows a simple formula. Give it to me. Recruit experienced players from winning programs. Calandria, 4,000 yards, 33 TDs, 9-2 at UNLV. Bring me Calandria. You know what? I'm all in on Calandria. Let's pull up his stats. Anthony Calandria. I love it. I think he's the same size as Josh Hoover. And, Signetti's going after Josh Hoover. He's 6 foot 205. I'm not kidding you. He might be 5'11", but that's the same size as Josh Hoover. Okay. Stats for Calandria. Exit that out. Played a good amount at Virginia. I mean, true freshman starter. Are you kidding me? Does it get better? 62% completion as a freshman, 62 as a sophomore, drops down to the Mountain West, 66 for 3,400 yards, damn near 35, 23-9 TD to INT. Now he comes in for his final season. He's rushed for a total of 1,100 yards, 650 last year, 10 TDs on the ground. I mean, does it get better? 5 yards a carry? We all want Calandria. That might be the name. That's the top one. That's my new top one. I'm motivated by you, Mojo Mikey. I'm motivated by you. Someone had to spark the fire and get me excited, and I think you're the one to do it. Tonight I'm watching Anthony Calandria highlights. I already did on TikTok, actually, like 3 days ago. I was like, geez, this guy's really freaking good for a UNLV quarterback, for a Dan Mullen QB. He might just be looking at a scarlet red jersey now instead of like a cherry red that he was wearing at UNLV, and I think he would be a great fit. You're right. Recruit the experienced guys from winning programs. He won. He proved it. Bring it on. Thank you, Mikey, for getting me excited. I need something to get excited about because this week's been just slow. It's the start of the new year. You know how it goes. It's just slow. We need to get some energy back at Nebraska, and that would give us energy. I want a guy who can run and can throw. Like I say, a guy who can run and can throw because Dave said this. Lagway had 14 interceptions this year. Does that get fixed? And that's where I don't know if they want to run the risk. That's a lot of freaking picks. He was a turnover machine. Do you say, you know what? We already took a turnover machine 2 years ago. We're going to risk it on another one? I don't know about that one, brother. I think we got to lay off the Lagway and go with someone who's been a little bit more consistent. But to that, you would argue he did it in the ACC. I'm sorry. He did it in the ACC. He did it in the Mountain West. The Big Ten is a different beast. But then go back to what Mojo Mikey was talking about. Curt Cignetti finds guys at smaller programs and says, fuck it. They know how to win. We're bringing them here with me. Google me and Google them. Curtis Rourke came from Ohio. Got into the Big Ten. Lit it up. They went to the playoff. Fernando Mendoza came from Cal. Comes to the Big Ten. Lights it up. Let's just follow the blueprint. Let's just steal Indiana's strategy. Fuck it. Just join them. Let's just do exactly what they do. It works. I'm telling you, I'm bought in now. I like this. Dave, I agree with you though. Lagway with the 14 picks is a lot. I don't know about that. JJ's on the same boat. I think we're going to all start to buy into the Calandria boat over Lagway. I think we're all going to get dialed in Calandria over Lagway. It'll just be, can they get him? Because there are a lot of schools who are going to get desperate and they're going to need a QB. And this, quote unquote tampering shit's going to get deep. People are going to be seeing Nebraska wants Calandria. Well, wait. If Matt Rhule wants him, I want him. So you better jump on him quick. Let's see. Talking about fast food in the chat. I forgot I used a fast food analogy. No wonder you guys are talking about that. Tom says Aiden Childs is a bad teammate per Michigan State sources. I know nothing about that. Impossible says it's pretty ridiculous. I'm kind of over being a Nebraska fan. What I've learned is you can be a Nebraska fan, but you got to have a backup team. So the last 2 years, my backup team's been Ole Miss. They haven't let me down yet. They're freaking electric. Their jerseys are cool. Their quarterback's just, I love him. No homo. You got to find a backup team who's doing well to get you through the slow months with Nebraska. Furby says Nebraska is going to suffer until it lets go of the past. Cignetti was able to do what he did because Indiana had no expectations. Living in the 90s still, new era needs a new identity. To be honest with you, I feel like Nebraska has let go of it. We have accepted that we're going to do whatever it takes to win, no matter what you got to do. Change it, right? Now the fans still buy into the the past identity of the team with the black shirts and the physicality and being the toughest guys on the field. But in terms of play style, in terms of expectations on how they're going to win, Nebraska fans don't care. They're just saying, get it done. You're never going to be able to flush it back to zero and say we have zero expectations. Indiana was bred on failure. And when you're bred on failure, you're never going to have hope. Nebraska fans have been bred on failure for the past 20 years, so young fans have been bred like Indiana fans, but the rest of us have not. So because we've seen what it can look like, we'll never fully diminish hope. I think that's the best way to say it. You're going to have some sort of expectation. This is hilarious. What about Alberto Mendoza at QB? Reach out and tamper. I don't think Alberto Mendoza is leaving Indiana. I'm just going to say it now. I think if he was to leave, he'd go somewhere where he can play right away. And I'm not sure Nebraska could take a risk on a guy who's shown almost nothing just because he's the brother of a Heisman winner. Back in here. Let's see. Rod says, can we get Danny Kaelin to come back for competition and depth? No, Danny Kaelin transferred out of Virginia because he wants to play. Otherwise, he would have just stayed the backup at Virginia. So he's not coming to Nebraska to be a backup. He'll go to another school, maybe G4, where he can play right away, is my guess. Also, he doesn't fit, I don't think. He's not the style of quarterback Nebraska wants. That's my guess. John says, do we have 2 portal commitments? Yes, brother, we got 2 of them. One on defense, one on offense. Dealing with Dylan, thank you for the $2 super chat. He says, UK fan, what were y'all excited about with Minchey? Nebraska fans were excited about Minchey strictly because of what they saw from Notre Dame reports. They were excited about Minchey because they hoped he could come in to lead Nebraska to, a Notre Dame style season. It's exciting when you get a new QB who's played at a winning program, who might have that winning mentality, right? Although he wasn't the starter, he almost started, and that gave people hope. When he did come in at Notre Dame, they didn't step off the brake. They still let him play to his full potential. They let him throw it downfield. They let him run it. They let him do everything the starter would be able to do. So Nebraska fans thought, if the coaching staff at Notre Dame had the trust in Minchey to lead their offense and be their QB1, although CJ Carr was the number 1, he's probably, although no one knows, he's probably going to do well at Nebraska in the Big Ten with Dana Holgerson's offense. I think the number 1 skill set that Nebraska fans liked was that he's more mobile than Dylan Rhule. When you watch him move around the pocket, he would scramble out left and dump it off. He'd move around, not take a sack. Dylan sat in there like a statue and just so many times got taken down and just made Nebraska fans' hands curl up into balls because they were like, what are you freaking doing? Just scramble a little bit. We know you have the ability. Why won't you do it? Minchey has the ability. More importantly, he's willing to move and be mobile. That's why they were excited, and I think he's going to be solid. I thought he would be Nebraska's starter, obviously, and I thought he had plenty of upside, but it's still TBD. You don't know until the guy plays a full season as a starter to really evaluate how good of a quarterback he is. But clearly, if Nebraska was willing to spend the money that they were going to and invest what they were going to into him being their number 1 without much proven, and then Kentucky says the exact same thing, it tells you something about what he's got in terms of practice film and in terms of personality, since he had to get calls from both the coaching staffs. So hopefully he does well at Kentucky. I mean, I want to see all these guys do well. It's fun to watch players do well. I'm not no bad blood, but I was never fully sold on him being Nebraska's savior or being a guy that they wouldn't be able to replace. So it is what it is. Nebraska's going to go find somebody fine. But good luck, Dylan. I hope Kentucky gets it figured out faster than Nebraska did. Although, I got a little bit of issue with Kentucky for stealing a couple Nebraska players over the past few years, but is what it is. Logan, thank you for the $2 super chat. Calandria is visiting this week. There we go. Calandria visiting this week. Where'd we see that info? Is that confirmed? I'd love to know. I think if Calandria comes to Nebraska, he's committing on the spot. When he sees it, coming from Virginia and coming from UNLV, why would you not? Also, he fits the system perfectly. Come on. It just makes too much sense. Joe says, I'd want Michael Van Buren or Calandria, but I'd hate Childs. Van Buren or Calandria would definitely start, but I think Childs is so bad he'd lose to TJ. This is absolutely ridiculous, Joe. Look, I'd love to see Michael Van Buren and Calandria. Not sure how realistic that is. Michael Van Buren could come in and compete. He's likely not a Power 4 starter, but if he does want to be at a Power 4 school, this would give him a good opportunity. Michael Van Buren is not as good as Aiden Childs. Come on. He's good, but he's not Aiden Childs. And Childs would not lose to TJ Lateef. Come on. He's faster, more athletic, and he's more proven as a passer. JJ says, how many rushing yards did Calandria have? Calandria had like 250 back-to-back seasons, I think I saw, and then 650 last year, some along those lines when we pulled it up. So a total of like 1,100 yards. John Jacob says, Hoover 6'2", Calandria is 6 foot. Yeah, weight-wise, they're the same. Height-wise, he's slightly taller. Still, they're small guys when you look at them on the field. They're thin. John says, if Calandria is so great, why hasn't he been scooped up? Good question. I don't know. And it's not that he's that great, right? He's coming from a group of 4, so people are still questionable. Wow. Pete Nakos says Calandria, Childs, and Prabula are supposedly setting up visits this week. Prabula? I might like Prabula better than Calandria. Guys, this is why I can't do live streams with the portal, because everything's changing so damn fast. I was all in on Calandria, but now Prabula, bigger, from Penn State and started in the SEC, proven. Let's pull up Prabula stats, guys. Bo Prabula visiting Nebraska. Even better than Kenny Minchey. I'm already over Kenny Minchey. I've been over him, but now I'm even more over him. Matt Rhule getting to work. He knows, make or break, get it done. Bo Prabula stats. Let's see what the fuck we're talking about. Bo Prabula. Are you kidding me? Pete Nakos reported? Let's go, Pete Nakos. He's just trying to brighten my day. It's freaking 9 o'clock at night, and I'm already getting a big smile on my face. How am I going to be able to sleep tonight? Bo Prabula this year at Missouri, 10 games, 67% of his passes were completed for almost 2,000 yards, 11 TDs, 9 interceptions. A little bit high on the interception end. However, he's a good runner, ran for 300 yards, and at Penn State, we really saw his running ability because they ran him more than they passed him. So, yeah, I'm a Prabula fan. I like Prabula because of the proven experience in the Big Ten and the proven experience in the SEC. And I truly do believe Penn State would have been better off with Bo Prabula than they were with Drew Aller. That was a huge mistake by James Franklin to let him leave and to keep Drew Aller as a starting quarterback. That was just ridiculous. Drew Aller sucked, and we all know it. Anyway, that is intriguing. We already flushed DJ Legway out, and we're talking about Bo Prabula. Let's rock. Bleed Husker says, did we see Calandria in the bowl game? He looked like shit. I don't even know who they played. UNLV bowl game. I don't even remember. I promise you I bet on it, but I already flushed it out. They played Ohio, and they lost. I mean, Ohio's got a good defense. I'm not really worried about it. I'm on the Bo Prabula train now. I mean, let's see. Red Wine says it was nice seeing Georgia, OSU, and Bama lose. How nice is it to see something different? You know what I mean? Parodying college football is what we all want. Ole Miss. What? One of the traditionally worst teams in the SEC is in the playoff? Indiana. One of the worst Big Ten team traditionally is in the playoff. Texas Tech, Oregon. I mean, all of these schools. It's so much newness. Alabama out. Georgia out. I love it. It makes me want to watch so much more. You're never going to catch me being like, oh, I can't wait to go to a Georgia-Ohio State game. I've been to so many damn Georgia-Ohio State games for these big ones, right? I'm just over it. I watch the same teams every year. It's like I'm watching the NFL teams and then everybody else in college is just kind of mid. Now we're getting to see something different. It makes me so excited. Yeah, I'm on the same page as you, Red Wine. Let's see. Sorry, I've been congested. I called 911 yesterday morning. I almost fainted. I was sick for like 2 weeks and I got dehydrated. I'm not kidding. I'm standing in my kitchen. Well, no, this is what happened. I'm taking a shower and I'm coughing up like my congestion stuff, mucus. I start to go lightheaded. I'm like, yo, what the? Then I start to get a little bit dizzier and my vision starts to go out. I hear ringing in my ears. I'm like, okay, this isn't good. So I wash the rest of my soap off my body real quick. I get out of the shower to go grab a towel, but I can't see the towel. My vision's like black and streaky. So I'm like, okay, screw it. I kind of grab my way to the kitchen where my phone is. I call 911. It's like 11 in the morning. And I'm like totally out of it. I'm trying to say my address. She's asking me questions. I'm just saying my address. Like, yo, here's my address. I'm about to pass out. And I didn't want to hit my head or something. I live alone. I didn't want to hit my head on the floor and go out or have some heart issue. I've had a heart issue in the past. I don't want to have something happen and have me die, you know? My parents would be like, why the fuck didn't you call 911? Anyway, so I call 911. I open my door real quick and I sit there chugging water. Anyway, I ended up being okay. The ambulance came. We were good. Just had to hydrate more. I say all of that to say, what was I talking about? I don't even know why I was telling you that. Damn it. I lost the end of the story. I don't even know where I started. I got so sidetracked. I got a million thoughts in my head. Doesn't matter. But you guys got a fun story about my life. So welcome into Connor's world of dehydration and travel. Went to the mountains. That's where the dehydration started. I was saying that because I was getting congested and coughing out. That's why. So many stories, guys. A lot of people are on the Calandria train now. Shadow says my backup teams are Iowa and Michigan State. Brother, your backup teams are not allowed to be in the Big Ten. I think that's one of the rules. Jose says my backup is the Dodgers. Brother, again, that's against the rules. We got to pick a college football team. I like this one. Puffin says my backup team's been FSU for the past 10 plus years. RIP. Bad time to be an FSU and a Nebraska fan. Bad time. Let's see. I would say Prebula right now, but I would be happy with either one of them. Prebula or Calandria. Give me either one. Colton Joseph's good. Colton Joseph's kind of like a Calandria. He went to Wisconsin, though, so Colton Joseph's off the board. Who knows how he'll do at Wisconsin. Wisconsin's been such a mess. What is any quarterback doing going there? I don't know. Dylan, thank you for the $2 super chat. He says, just hope it's not enough another Brock Vandergrift. Yeah, Brock Vandergrift was terrible. What do you think of Cutter Boley? It's funny that Nebraska was even flirting with the idea of taking a Cutter Boley. I'm not sure if they were, if that was just the media hyping him up, but Cutter Boley to me was kind of whatever for Kentucky this year. Big Dog, thank you for the $10 super chat. He says, it's not as bad as you think it is. We will end this year with a top 10 transfer portal class, a decent QB, and a solid line on both sides. Take a step back, guys. Come on. I think they're a top 15 portal class no matter what this year. There are still guys who are going to enter. Nebraska's going to pursue plenty of the dudes who are in there right now. They're going to land some of them. People are getting a little bit hysterical because early on in the process, you're watching all these big name guys go to bigger schools. But the reality is Nebraska's got to sit back and chill, wait for their turn, wait for their time, because you're not going to compete with LSU, Texas Tech, Ole Miss, Alabama, Indiana. It is what it is. That's not where this program is right now. Let the dust settle, come in, pick your spots, take the guys you can get, and I'm sure Nebraska with 15, 20 additions from, G4, Power 4, some big-time schools, maybe some guys like a Justin Rhett who didn't work out of Georgia but came to Nebraska. Maybe you find a guy like that from Ohio State, from USC, Alabama, who knows? Things are going to settle down, and by the time the portal closes, it opened on January 2nd. It probably closes January 14th. We got another 7-10 days, something like that. I'm on the same page as you, big dog. Same page as you. Thank you again for the super chat. Logan says, Connor is drunk off the Rhule aid. No, I'm way off the Rhule aid, brother. I'm so far off the Rhule aid. No disrespect to Matt Rhule. Love Matt Rhule. Great guy. But no, I am not sitting here like woo Matt Rhule. I am stressed. As I said in the beginning of my stream, if you didn't see how I started the stream, go back and watch it. I told you. It's a stressful time to be in Nebraska. Drink plenty of fluid. Actually, I don't have high blood pressure. Please, Husker. I've checked. I don't have high blood pressure. Don't worry. Thank you guys for your concerns about my dehydration. I appreciate you. Chris says Longstreet would be 800K. That could be interesting. It's interesting because, okay, here's the numbers. Chris says, if these were the numbers, Longstreet would be 800K, Prebula would be 1.5 million, Calandria would be 1.3 million. Who are you taking? Since it's not my money, I don't really care what the prices are. So let's just talk about who I like the best and for what reason. I like Longstreet because Longstreet had a high ceiling. He was developed under Lincoln Riley. He could have been the starter at USC next year. Would have been the starter at USC next year. I would say Longstreet's extremely attractive for that reason, but also because he's a great runner. Prabula is a proven Big Ten and SEC guy. It's really hard to turn down that experience. The price tag's a little higher than these other two, though. Prabula's a Big Ten body, though, you know. He did get hurt, so the injury issue you'd have to consider. And Calandria at 1.3 million, probably the most successful statistically of the three. Not even probably. He is for sure the most successful statistically, but he's been playing at a lower level, smaller guy. That's a tough one. I'd probably rank it right now. This is tough. Nebraska needs to take a shot. Nebraska needs to run the risk. They need something big to happen. Calandria gives you the biggest upside potential right now for next season. Longstreet gives you the best upside in terms of long-term, but you have to look at this quarterback deal as yearly. So I'd say I'd go Calandria number 1, Bo Prabula number 2, and Longstreet number 3. But I'd probably go Calandria 1, Longstreet 2, Bo Prabula 3, because if you get Longstreet, you have multiple years with him potentially. And if he does pan out to be the 5-star that USC thought he was going to be, then Longstreet's a long-term option. You can't discredit that. So Calandria, Longstreet, Prabula. And you would hope that Calandria could come to Nebraska and somehow work the magic that he worked at UNLV and look amazing. That's what you would hope for. You'd buy the upside. Todd says Calandria and Prabula. We need 2 transfer QBs anyway. Nebraska's going to take 2 transfer QBs, but you don't take 2 starting transfer QBs. Both of those QBs are going to start at Power 4 schools or should start at Power 4 schools. You can't afford to take both. They would each cost you $1 million, right? Nebraska got to spend that money elsewhere. So they're going to get like a Prabula and then someone further down the list, like maybe Amari Odom, who I talked about from Kennesaw State earlier. That could be a potential that you take a flyer on as your bench dude. It's kind of like what Lane Kiffin did last year. They had Austin Simons, who had already proven himself with a Georgia win at Ole Miss when Jackson Dart got hurt. Then they went and got Trinidad Chambliss from the D2 school, multi-national champion at that level. But you didn't really know what he was going to be. Obviously, couldn't go and start somewhere else. Michigan State didn't even fucking call his phone, and he was in their backyard. So he had to go and potentially sit on the bench, wait his turn, and it ended up working out for him. Nebraska would have to do something like that. So the other name I like, if you were to pair him up, would be Calandria or Prabula with Michael Van Buren. That'd be so friggin' sweet. But Michael Van Buren probably wants to go to a G4 school. That'd be my guess. Let's see. Alonzo Smith from JMU is now the quarterback at UCF. Scott Frost got his guy. Who would have thought? Who would have friggin' thought? Ryan says, nah, we took Wandale from y'all and it did him wonders. You can have Key. That's funny. Yeah, Wandale was the winner in that Key Wandale trade for sure. Josiah says a lot of Missouri fans say that Prabula sucks. He's not their style of quarterback. So that's why Prabula sucks. The quarterback they had before was a much better passer. Prabula has upside though. So for Nebraska, I think they could take a shot with Prabula and he would do well. They didn't like him because he had a lot of turnovers. Shadow question. My dad and I have never been to a Nebraska game at Memorial Stadium and are considering trying to grab tickets to one this upcoming season. Which game would you personally recommend going to? I'll tell you right now, brother. They give you 2 options. So fucking congested. It's annoying. Started my workout program today. I'm doing a 12-week program. I pay $1,000 to this YouTuber named Fusi for it. He's writing all my workouts. And he's giving me my macros. So today's my first day working out in the last like 3 months. I'm in the worst shape of my life, 25% body fat. I'm not kidding you. The worst shape of my life. I've only worked out like 80 days this whole year or last year. So I'm gonna get fucking ripped. Now that we're done with football season, I'm getting in shape. It's my full-time job. Okay. Next season, 2026. Here are the games I would go to. So I don't know what experience you want. So that's why I'm going to give you different options. If you want to do it how I do it, I'm called a big game hunter. I only come out of my shell if the game is between 2 behemoths. And usually Nebraska's not a behemoth, so I got to have at least 1 behemoth. So the only games I would consider going to Lincoln, Nebraska for this year, since it's a trek for me coming from Arizona, would be Ohio State or Indiana. You could convince me to go to Washington depending on the date, if it worked in my schedule and if I was unable to go to one of these other 2 games. But since I'm a big game hunter, I prioritize these 2. The downside with that is you often, in my case, always watch Nebraska lose that game. The plus side is you get to be there for all the former players who were in town, and everyone's the most excited because they're pulling for an upset. Obviously, the national attention's on the game, so it's a really good energy pregame. The downside is after the game, people are a little bit dead. They're a little bit, disgruntled, and the going out might not be as fun afterwards. But in my cases, it's always been just as fun to go out afterwards because everyone wants to get drunk and fucked up anyway. So I'm a big game hunter. I choose Ohio State or Indiana. Could convince me to go to Washington. Now, if I was going to my first Nebraska game at Memorial Stadium and I really wanted a chance to catch a win, I am probably not going to choose a big game like that. I'll choose the second biggest game, a team that Nebraska could actually beat. So I'd probably say Washington. Now, here's the caveat. If I'm going to my very first Nebraska game ever, I'm trying to go to a night game because I already know it's going to be freaking amazing. And if I don't go that often, I'm trying to go out to the blackout game. So which one of these games is the blackout? Because that will be an unreal environment. I'd probably say any of these four would be good enough to go to for the blackout, like even if it was Maryland. The other thing is time of year. I don't like to go to day games in September because it's too freaking hot unless you sit on the right side of the stadium. There are so many variables, right? I think about these details because I go to so many games, so I like to make sure I pick my spots the right way. I'm just a picky guy. So it all depends on weather. It all depends on time of day. I prefer night, so I'd search night game. I'd search special moment. And I'd usually look at winnable opportunity last. So hope that helps, Shadow. If I just had to pick a random one on here for you that kind of fits everything, I'd say Washington. That's the game I'm going to if I'm you, but variables are going to come into play as we get closer, the time of day, the time of year, and then you'll have a better idea of what you want to do. I just have to see the big teams play. I can't sit there and watch Nebraska play Maryland. It's not going to happen because there are too many other big games on TV that I want to watch. So I can't sit there and watch Nebraska and Maryland while I know LSU and Bama are playing. You know what I mean? Something like that. So anyway, Bernie says Nakos reported they're working on a visit for Lagway. I'm excited for any quarterback they bring in. If the staff believes in him and that player wants to be here, I'm in. Let's go. I can't wait to see what they can do. All of these quarterbacks are coming in with issues. There's all negatives to their game to some degree, hence why they got in the portal, right? So you take the bad with the good and you hope that this staff can bring the good out. That's all it is. I like all these quarterbacks and I like that they all have the profile to be the Nebraska starting quarterback. I believe in them, Sean says, if Latif is your QB coming in, needs to also fit his skill set. If Latif is your QB coming in, needs to also, I'm trying to read this right. He either wins it out or someone can come in and run the same. TJ is not the QB. TJ is a backup, just so we're real. Owen said, did you see who Virginia Tech got? Virginia Tech got Ethan Grunkmeyer from Penn State. Sean says, we felt the pain in the USC game when they had to change and dial down the game plan. These guys get hurt too much, and you do need to be able to have the next guy ready to go. I think next year TJ will be ready to go as a backup, to be honest with you. He's going to be better than he was this season. I just don't think he'll be ready to be the starter next year. Lefty says, Rhule said desperate team set the market. We are now a desperate team. We're not a desperate team yet. There's a ton of quarterbacks out there that fit Nebraska's budget. So we're nowhere near desperate. Big Dog, thank you for the $5 super chat. I don't get the negativity. We're not as young next year. Great hires, and we have studs coming in all week. 8 wins in 26, 9+ in 27. I'd bet on it. Hey, the problem is we haven't seen Nebraska play a full season like an 8-win team under Matt Rhule. And until they do, it's hard to buy into the idea. This year, it felt like he had the talent to do so, and he didn't get it done. Now, you add in, there was a big injury that obviously cost them that 8th win, but it still left a really bad taste in your mouth. And now with so many guys entering the portal and some question marks about who they're going to bring in, people are just, having their doubts. So I understand it. But Big Dog, I totally get your optimism. I appreciate your optimism, and I hope you're right. But yeah, I don't know. Chris Randall says, anyone else hear Dittman call Connor a hater the other day? Call who a hater? I called Dittman. Wait, what? Why would I be a hater on Dittman? I don't give a shit about Dittman. He said something about me. I'll make a phone call if I have to. I don't like people putting their name in my mouth. Let's see. Shao says, I appreciate the input. I like to go to a game where I know we can be competitive and pull out a win. Washington might be the best one for that. Yeah, competitive, equal profile. It's at home. There should be a reason to believe that game, unless Nebraska falls apart. You know what I mean? Big Dog says we didn't have the talent. Youngest team in the Big Ten, 100%. Hopefully they get shit together. Snake says if Rhule were to leave, we'd have to start back to square one and all that. Yeah, I mean, I don't think Rhule's leaving for a while. I'm betting that Nebraska does well enough next year that he gets to keep his job. I'm hoping. It all starts with what quarterback they get and if that quarterback pans out. That's the craziest of it all, right? The fact is Nebraska's betting their future on this QB, and that's why everyone's stressed out about it. I'm in the same camp, to be honest. Guys, I've been on here for damn near 2 hours, and we've been talking about quarterbacks, we've been talking about the portal, talking about Matt Rhule's future. And I don't know what's going to happen. I'm optimistic that we can get a guy who will fit the mold, but I don't know if Nebraska can develop him. You know, I haven't seen proof. Nebraska's struggled to develop quarterbacks they've brought in over the past 3 years. It sucks, man. It sucks living in this unknown space. I know they can develop receivers. I know they can develop running backs. I feel like they can develop offensive linemen with Jeep Wade. But what about quarterbacks? Noah says, thank you for the $2 super chat. He says, after QB, next position we have to hit on. I feel like running back, man. If Nebraska doesn't get a good running back, you're stuck with running backs who are a bit too unproven for my liking. You know what I'm saying? Like, Mekhi Nelson looked good in the bowl game. Obviously, you have some upside with Mosey, but Nebraska's got to get a good running back. You saw how crucial it was having Emmett Johnson. He carried the offense this year. So, yeah. I think offensive line, or sorry, running back, and then offensive line after that. Let's see. Brett says, no one said anything about me. Thank you for clearing that up, Brett. I appreciate you. Snake says, what do you think about Brandon Black committing to us? Great. They needed to replace Rocco Spindler, and I think this could be an upgrade even, especially with Jeep Wade. I mean, what can Jeep Wade turn him into? That would be freaking fantastic. I don't know. It's going to be a who knows, but I'd like to see it. Chris Randall said he had a conversation with me to get things straight, but that you didn't like him or whatever. I have no problem with anybody, just so we're clear. I didn't like that, that I thought, based on some things in my chat, I thought that guy was talking shit. I didn't like that. So yeah, he and I had a conversation, and it was productive. It was a good conversation. And I have no problem with him personally. I don't have any issue with him. So that's not true. I don't have any issue with anybody. I have no beef with anybody on Nebraska YouTube. I'm friends with most Nebraska YouTube people. I talk to them all the time on the phone. So I'm very friendly with people. Lawrence, I wonder what happened to the young woman who started making content last year. She had some nice videos and you brought her into one of your live streams. I think Viv was her name. Viv, you know, I thought she was AI. I felt so bad. That was terrible. She did good video content. It was just so good. I thought it was AI. It's hard to make content around Nebraska football. Number one, it's hard to get views. When I started, it wasn't saturated. I'm OG in this, right? Like I started when no one else was doing it. I don't even know if Husker Online was making YouTube videos yet. They had a podcast, I'm sure, but I don't even know what their YouTube strategy was. Adam Carricker was not making YouTube content. Not very much, at least. He was a little bit, actually. John Johnson was one of the few making it. So it wasn't hard to get in. And then there became a bunch of people who started making it. And I'm not targeting anyone specifically, but people started making a lot of clickbait content. Not one person, but like dozens. And when I saw this clickbait content start to come out, I got turned off. And I was like, this isn't what I want to do anymore. And for me to get the views I have to get, I've got to do that. And I just wasn't interested in it. That's not my style of content. So anyway, for Viv, she probably felt the same way. if you want to compete in this space, you've got to do what most people don't want to do. And she probably wasn't willing to. So that's the bottom line with Viv. Wish her the best. Hope she's doing well, but it's hard to make content and to get people to watch. It's how many YouTubers do you think that talk about one singular team, or just look at Nebraska football alone, could get 700 people on here live? I had 700 at one point, sitting in here on a Monday night at 9 o'clock to talk about this quarterback situation, right? Without having some clickbait headline or anything like that. Not many. It's hard. So it's a thankless job. You know what I mean? I'm very thankful for the job because I obviously was able to monetize it and I had a lot of positivity after I got successful with this channel. But for people who are starting up from zero, it's fucking hard to make it work. High Mountain Guy says, Rhule's bulletproof on this current contract and with the 27 class still becoming a monster. Remember that to get through next season while we're clubbed like a baby seal. He needs to get to 8 wins next year. And then if he can get to 8 wins next year, they can hope that some of the true freshmen who come in the 2027 class can make a contribution. Royal says, Isaac Brown, I would throw money at him. Isaac Brown's back at Louisville. He entered the portal and jumped right back to Louisville. I think he would have only gone to Texas anyway. He wasn't a Nebraska option. Todd, thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Happy New Year. We love you. It's late over there, I know. Been up all night. It's getting late. Let's see. Is Mahomes coming back? No, sir, Justin. Mahomes is not coming back. That bridge is burnt. He's going to go do his thing. Josh, I talked about it in the beginning of this stream, but I'll give you the quick rundown. Kenny Minchey commits to Nebraska. Kentucky tries to go after Sam Leavitt. Sam Leavitt turns down Kentucky's probably $5 million offer, $4 million. Who knows what they offered? Something exorbitant. Kenny then is at Nebraska, gets a call from Kentucky, and they say, hey, we'll double your offer. Who knows what the amount was? They gave him plenty of money, and they said, come over here. We've got a new OC in Will Stein, who's currently in the playoff. Well, a new head coach in Will Stein, who's currently an OC in the playoff. We're going to build around you, and we're going to make sure that you have a better chance to succeed than you would at Nebraska. And he's probably sitting there like, well, Nebraska was going to give me the same offer. Well, same offer in terms of starting potential, but they weren't going to give me as much money. So I can go to Kentucky. There's a little bit more excitement around Kentucky right now because Nebraska's feeling a little bit morbid. Fuck it. I'm getting out of here and going to Kentucky. That's what I think happened. I think most people would agree with that. And that's how we got here. But we're talking about a lot of other options. Bo Prabula's on the table. Anthony Colandrea, Aiden Childs. We mentioned one more, DJ Lagway. I mean, the portal's hot and ready. And all of these quarterbacks are exactly the same in terms of potential, it feels like. So if you're going to shoot your shot, you got plenty of options to shoot at. You know what I'm saying? None of these guys are that much better than the last. So hopefully they get the right one and that guy pans out. But I'm feeling optimistic. I think a lot of us are. Most people would agree with my sentiment there. Chris says, too much clickbait stuff out there. You're crushing it. Stay unemotional. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. I try my best to be unemotional. It's hard, but I try. James, thank you for becoming a member of the Corn Craze Army. I appreciate the support. Damian says, I would not be against Dylan Rhule coming back, but I would 100% on board with him, unlike when he decided to commit in December of 2023. Wouldn't 100% be on board. So my understanding is the dynamic with some of the teammates was off, and I think Dylan being gone is going to leave some fresh energy. So I would not be on board with Dylan Rhule coming back. I don't think he was a cultural fit, is what we'll say. Let's see. Josh says, bro, 2 years ago we were begging for just a bowl game. Now we're expecting 12 wins. Did we not learn from that? Hey, Josh, this is the thing. Nebraska fans aren't expecting 12 wins. Nebraska fans are expecting 9 wins. And no, I don't think that's too much to expect, to be honest with you. I think that was totally fair. JJ said it seemed odd that Minchey would commit without a visit. I didn't think it was odd. He got the right number he was looking for. You get to come and be the face of a big-time program like Nebraska. It made sense. They were the best offer to that point. Didn't matter whether he visited or not. Then another offer came to the table that was a little bit higher, so it made sense for him to leave. I mean, I think it was a sequence of events that made sense. John says, where is Lincoln Kienholz going? Lincoln Kienholz actually committed to Louisville, of all places, with Jeff Brom. Great pickup for them. I think he's a stud, and I think their coach is really good. So Louisville's probably a good fit for that guy. He hasn't done anything at Ohio State, but maybe the next Joe Burrow. Who knows? Anyway, guys, I've been here for a while. I'm going to get off. So thank you for being here. I will be back this week, next week, I don't know, whenever there's more stuff to talk about, I'll be back to hang out with you, because if I'm going to talk about it with anybody, I'm going to talk about it with you. So with all that said, thank you for being here, and I will see you in the next one. Go Big Red.